All right, today we're doing 5.3. This is special right triangle situations. This is incredibly important. The rest of the year depends on your ability to understand and do quickly these types of problems. These are really fun once you understand the trick, once you see it. But until you see it, you're going to be super frustrated because it just doesn't make sense. I'm going to do my very best to help you see the easy tricks that are so common. Now, there's two kinds. There's a 45-45 and a 30-60. First, we're going to look at the 45-45. Here's kind of the basic idea of what's happening, okay? We're only looking here at the 45-45. If I have a value of this, and the triangle's 90, 45, 45, and I know this value, then the other leg automatically has the same value. And the long side automatically has that same value times root 2. So if I told you this value here was 4, then I know this one's 4, and this one's 4 root 2. If I told you it's 10, this one's 10, this one's 10 root 2. Now, if I told you this one was 5 root 2, then this one's 5, this one's 5. Now, if I told you this one was 10, total 10, then I would have to divide by root 2. So I'd have 10 over root 2, which I can't have. So then I have to divide around and figure things out. I'll show you that later. But right triangle trick is kind of fun. Now, over here, same idea. If I know this value, I know that the long side is twice as big. Now notice this is the shortest side. The shortest side and the longest side are twice as big as one another. And the middle leg is root 3 longer than the shorter leg. So we say, like 1, what's double of 1? 2. What's 1 times root 3? Root 3. So I have a 1, root 3, and 2 size triangle. We'll talk more about that later. 45-45. This is going to be awesome. I'm so excited to use this. Okay. So, and the picture actually forms 3 separate formulas. Okay, now this is the long, slow way to do it. We have x, and x root 2. Okay, so the length of a leg is x. The length of the hypotenuse is x root 2. Okay, so we're going to use these in conjunction. We say x and x root 2. So each example has every step illustrated in your notes. Okay, use your notes along doing your homework if you get stuck. Okay, it's not hard. You just have to follow along and you'll get it eventually. Right here. Here I have a 45-45. I have 4, and automatically I know that this side is 4. And automatically I know that this side is 4 root 2, just following my little cheat sheet diagram that I talked about. So I say 4, 4, 4 root 2, and I'm done. But if you don't know that trick, then you're going to go ahead and set up your formulas. You're going to say the side across the 45 is x, the side across 45 is x, and the side across the 90 is x root 2. So now I've got 3 formulas. I say I've got these in side by side. I say x equals 4 and b equals x times root 2. So b equals 4 root 2. Sorry, I went a little fast there. So I found the side of the missing, I said 4 root 2, which is exactly what I said at the beginning in the picture. I said, I started out the very problem. I said right here, I said I got 4, the other leg is 4, and the opposite is 4 root 2. These are my favorite. They're so easy. You just got to see that it's the same value. So right here, we've got 12 root 2. Instantly, I know that a is 12. Because on my cheat sheet, I have x root 2, and this one is x. So I say, well, x is 12, so a must be 12. Now, if I don't know those tricks, I look at it and I set up my formulas. I cross across. I say 45 is x, across from 45 is a. So I say, across from the 90 is x root 2. Notice how 12 and x are in the same position. I divide both sides by root 2, and I end up with knowing that x equals 12. And since x equals 12, a equals 12. Right here, this is where it gets tricky. Here I've got an 8. Well, I know that that is supposed to equal, x root 2. So I divide by root 2. I divide by root 2. But I can't have a root 2 on the bottom, so I multiply by root 2 and root 2, which gives me, I'm going left, I know it's going to bother people, but that's okay, gives me 8 root 2 over 2, which can simplify to be 1 and 4, or just 4 root 2. Now here's the trick. And when you're given a 45 like this, I don't know if I should be telling you this. It's a highly kept secret in the math world. All you do is you half the 8. Whoa, Betsy. Okay. You half the 8 and you put a root 2 behind it. Notice how 4 is half of 8? So when I do this, I say here's 8. Okay, well, then C is 4 root 2, and so is D. Because I half the 8 and put a root 2 behind it every single time. So if this was a 10, well, I'd say that's 5 root 2 and 5 root 2. If it's a 9, I say that's an odd number, so it doesn't half very well, does it? Half of 9 would be, what, like 4.5? We don't do 4.5. So we leave it as 9 over 2, root 2. But we'll get more into that later. Let's go back, and I'll erase everything I've done here. And we'll do it via the notes, so you guys have it in your notes correctly. So right here, I say cross d equals x, d equals x. Well, across from the 90, it equals x root 2. So I divide by root 2. Well, I can't have a root 2 on bottom, so I multiply by root 2 to both sides, or the top and bottom, and I put 8 root 2, which reduces down to be 4. My answer is 4 root 2. There we go. That is 45-45 triangle. I'm going to do a couple of problems like this. Okay, here's my 45-45 triangle. If this is 2, what's half of 2? 1. So this is 1 root 2 and 1 root 2. Check my answers. Root 2 and root 2. Now I'm going to do this. I'm going to refresh. This one's 2. Well, that means B is 2 because they're the legs. And that means A is 2 root 2. Okay? Oh, sorry. Keep pushing the wrong button here. There's my answers. B is 2 and A is 2 root 2. So I ignore my answers. Here we go. 6, V is 6, U is 6 root 2. They're the same size, right? The legs of the triangle. And the longer side is going to be 6 with a root 2 behind it. So I turn off my answers, I refresh. So now this is 2 root 10. Ooh, interesting. So for this one, I have to be able to set this equal to root 2x. Okay? And then divide root 2 over and solve. So not all of them are going to be nice and pretty and easy, but guess what? On the test, they'll all be nice and easy. I promise. So on this one, it would be divide both sides by root 2, and we'd be fine. So let's go ahead and get a better one that we're going to have actually on the test. Ooh, I like this one. This one's great. What is V? V is the same size as the other leg, so I know that V is 5 root 2 over 2. Now U, I have to times it by root 2. And when I do that, the root 2 here and the root 2 that I'm timesing it by become 2. Well, 2 divided by 2 goes away, so U is 5. U is 5. You see that? U is 5 and V is the same thing. Okay, so let's refresh. So I know that Y is the same value, 3 root 5. I know that X, I'm going to times it by root 2. And root 5 times root 2, I've raised the drawbridge and I get root 10. So I know that the answer is 3 root 10. There's 3 root 10. If you know the tricks, you can do it so much faster. Like right here, N is root 5, M is root 10. Root 5, root 10. Because I know it's the same length. Root 5 and root 5, they're the same. And then M, I just times it by root 2. So I raise the drawbridge and I say, what's the square root of 5 times 2? The square root of 10. And I go on. So this is 45-45 triangles. They're super easy. You just got to be able to mirror the legs. They're the same value. And then solve for the third side. So now we're talking about 30, 60, 90 triangles. So on 30, 60, 90 triangles, instead of having both of the legs be equal to each other, now we have something kind of cool. The shortest side is half as big as the longest side. Okay? And the shortest side, we just add on a root 3 behind it, I should say, and that gives us our middle side leg right here across from the 60. Okay, now I do these fast because I think of double or half. Okay, so if I'm given this piece, I cut it in half. If I'm given this piece, I double it. Now, if I'm given this piece, then I do some work. Okay, I've got to divide by root 3, and I'll show you how to do that. Right, but right here, if you'll notice, we get 3 separate formulas. Across from there, we get x, 2x, and x root 3. Right here, I'm given the shortest side. Do you see this? C, I automatically know is 18 because I doubled it. And B, I automatically know is 9 with a root 3 behind it, because this is my x value. I double the shortest side to get C, and I add a root 3 behind it to get B. Now watch how we do this the long way. We take it and we look at across, and I say that equals x. And I say that equals 2x. And I say this equals x root 3. So now I look at my formula. I've got x equals 9, c equals 2x, and x root 3. So now I'm going to take this x and I'm going to plug it into each one of these. And I'm going to get 2x equals 18, and then x equals 9 root 3. There we go. So we plug it in and we get our answers. This is the easiest one. When I give you the shortest side, you just double it and then tack a root 3 on the back and you're done. So, uh-oh, I think I broke it. There we go. So right here, I'm giving you the long side. Now remember, the long side is twice as big as the short side. So immediately I know that A is 4. I just cut it in half. And once I know that this is 4, I know that B is 4 root 3, because I just tack on the root 3 of the shortest side. So to see the long way, I come here, I cross, and I say that equals x, that equals 2x, and then B equals x root 3. I set up my equations. I draw them all out there nice and even, and I say x equals a. Well, and again, here I notice that x equals a. Oh, geez. 2x equals 8. And x minus x root 3 equals b. I don't know why my marker's being all silly. Right here we've got x equals a. Well, then I just got to solve for x. So here I can divide by 2 and get x equals 4. Like I just barely said, right? A is 4. Automatically I knew that because I just cut it in half. Now when I get that solved, then I can say I can plug x in over here as well and say 4 root 3. That's just what I said. I take the 8, cut it in half to get the smallest side, tack on a root 3 to it to get the b. Super awesome. Right here, I've got 7 root 3. Now this is my middle side. Notice it's across from the 60. So my x value is 7. So right now I know that 7 is a, and c is twice as big as that, so it's 14. C is 14, and a is 7. Done. Just by looking at my cheat sheet and realizing that 7 is in the x position. Now, going the long route, we set up our equations. X equals a, c equals 2x, and x root 3 equals 7 root 3. Now I set up my equations, and I've got to solve for x. So over here, I'm going to divide by root 3 both sides, and I'm going to end up with x equals 7, which is exactly what I just said. And then I say, hey, look, that's a, because x is a. And then I use that, and I plug it in, and I double it, and I get c equals 14, which is exactly what I just said. Notice that if it's in that position, we're already done. Right here, we've got a new position, a new situation here. The middle length is not given to us nice and pretty. We've got to be able to figure this out. This is supposed to have equaled x root 3, but it doesn't. So now I divide both sides by root 3. Okay, I divide both sides by root 3. That gets rid of here, and I'm left with 8 over root 3. Well, that's not allowed, so I times it by root 3 over root 3. Marker's being weird. That crosses out the bottom and leaves a 3 on bottom. And then on top, I'm left with 8 root 3. Okay. Now, I would normally reduce my fraction, but I can't because it's an 8 and a 3. So I'm done. This means that this side over here, this a, is now going to be 8 root 3 over 3. And since I know that a is half as big as c, I can just double it and say this side is 16 root 3 over 3. Okay. Now remember,